Welcome to the MicroCast, the short-form podcast from Microcosm Coaching, where we break down the science, strategy, and psychology behind smarter endurance training. Each week, we tackle a key concept in running, training, or recovery, and we give you practical tools you can apply right away, whether you're building back, leveling up, or chasing down a big goal. We keep it short, evidence-based, and grounded in real coaching experience. No hype, no fluff, just actionable insights to help you train sustainably and perform at your best. Let's get into it.
Over the next few weeks, we're going to introduce you to a few other Microcosm coaches on our podcast, so you can hear a little bit from them on who they are and what they're about.
My name is Zachary Russell. I'm a coach from Microcosm Coaching. My story began back in college. I was on a trail run with some friends. They absolutely demolished me, and so I went back to college after spring break and started on the treadmill and got into running that way. Eventually became kind of full on board with marathons, triathlons, eventually wanted to do an Ironman, and really just found a community in running. People that I really enjoy coaching are athletes that have a desire to explore themselves and adventure. So not just necessarily one who's like, I want to PR this marathon, I want to run this time, but athletes that are a little bit, think about it in a more creative sense. And so athletes that I enjoy are ones that do multiple sports, whether it's competitively or recreationally, or just needing some sort of person to structure their daily or weekly training to kind of balance all of these things together. Being an athletic trainer and strength coach and having a lot of knowledge in nutrition, I think that I bring this well-rounded person to my coaching. Having this background of athletic training, my experiences, multiple disciplines, whether it's Ironman, triathlon, trail running, marathoning, with these long gravel races or mountain bike races that I've done, just a lot of experience that I can bring to the athletes and kind of talking points or touch points that, I've experienced these things and kind of can relate to a lot of these athletes. I would say my favorite athletes, the things that they have in common is their desire to learn more. So they're always asking questions in their Training Peaks log. They're always wanting to know, okay, well, why did you put this here? Or why did you put that here? Why are we doing this long run this week, but then we're going shorter the next week? Or, what's the purpose of this workout? And so it's an athlete that's invested in the program. They're not just out there clicking buttons, getting through each day. I mean, yes, those athletes are great as well. I enjoy those, but ones that are a little bit more invested and also participate in kind of multiple sports. I, as a coach, take on a very small athlete load so that I can invest a little bit more time into each individual athlete. I help weekend warriors and multi-sport athletes achieve realistic goals and balancing training load to achieve actionable dreams, whether it's races or getting out and climbing the next 14er.
If you want to get to know anyone else on our staff, reach out. We have roster spots available. microcosmcoaching@gmail.com.
Back in the studio.
Back in the studio. It's like I never left.
I think it appears as though you've just come back from a run.
I have just come back from a run. And previously, I got a really bad sunburn on my chest and it was hurting, and I didn't put more sunscreen on it. So prior to turning the camera on, I had a giant ice pack in the front of my shirt.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not feeling too good.
I'm a little toasted.
We need
That's
to get
okay.
some aloe vera on that.
I took a nap by a river on Sunday and didn't wear sunscreen.
Zoe, the things we forget to do,
But
they are critical. Sunscreen
you'll never
and
believe
skin
this.
health are so key.
Guess what I am doing right now?
Drinking electrolytes.
Water.
Water.
Like H2O.
Really? Plain water? Is it
plain
bubble?
water.
There's
no
bubbles.
bubbles. There is ice, but it is plain water.
Guys, this is a first.
Out of my Aerosol.
I don't think I've ever seen Zoe drink a glass of water.
No.
Well, you'll be well hydrated, and I'm sure you had a chatty run with Kylie, so you should be ready
so I'm
to
warmed
go.
up. Actually, this is literally my third podcast today.
Wow, you have done 3 more podcasts than me today.
Yeah, I actually had a really cool interview with a journalist this morning who embedded with Kenyan runners to learn about their culture and some of the physiology behind training in Kenya. So that was number one.
That's really cool.
Number 2 was I got to talk to because this is the life I have and the kind of person I am. My favorite exercise physiologist, Nick Tiller, who has a new book coming out, and he, like me, sort of is really fascinated in pseudoscience and why pseudoscience catches on in health and fitness. So those two interviews will come out on my other podcast, The Trailhead. Definitely check it out. I was like really blown away by both of them, and not because I was on them.
Amazing. I can't wait to listen. Do you think that today's topic could possibly be misconstrued at times for pseudoscience?
I wouldn't say, well, no, but let's let the cat out of the bag. What are we talking about today?
We're diving into running economy.
It's the economy, stupid.
It's the economy.
So in this economy, no, I think that this is obviously, I mean, it is a thing, and we'll talk about what it is. But I will say, like almost every take in today's modern, like podcast industrial complex, I think there are people who take running economy out of context and try to make it the be all end all. And we're going to do a very unsexy thing, which is describe what it is, how to improve it, and also position it as being important, but not the only important thing.
Right.
It's not the only factor that goes into running. It's very important. I think it's broadly misunderstood, but I do think there are ways that people can get hyper fixated on it to the detriment of other things. I think specific to trail and ultra, which is not all that we do here at Microcosm. We have two lovely marathon specific coaches. We have a skimo coach. We have two cycling coaches. So like we do a lot of things that aren't trail and ultra.
Yeah.
But particularly for trail and ultra, running economy has limitations if you're trying to use it as like the big thing or like the number one predictor of success.
Well, the thing that I like to tell my athletes is that fitness is our number one superpower, and it's our like Swiss Army knife against a number of different factors that can happen at races of all distances.
Yes.
But in particular, you know, fitness is the number one thing we're going to use when we need to manage race specificity, when we need to manage the heat or humidity, when we need to manage altitude, and all of these factors that we tend to overemphasize in training to the detriment of actual good training.
Yes.
Fitness is the number one thing that is going to make all of those variables more manageable.
Yep.
The other thing to think about is running economy.
Yes.
This is another important factor that helps mitigate against the negative, you know, byproducts of it being a hot race.
Yep.
Or you being at altitude, or you being at mile 20 of your marathon.
Yep.
Et cetera. It's very, very important. And I do think that sometimes in the industry, the podcasting industry out there, we forget to mention fitness in the conversation around economy.
For sure. And I mean, you know, that's because fitness can mean so many different things. But one way to think about slicing this conversation is you can have two runners with identical VO2 max, but they can have race times that differ by 20 minutes or more over the course of a marathon.
Yeah.
And that can be attributed entirely to their running economy. So today we're going to break down what it actually is, the 7 or 8 things that are going on under the hood that determine how efficient a runner you actually are.
7 or 8 things. So
I haven't
there's
decided.
not just 7.
There's not
but
just
there's
7.
not 5.
There's also not 5. There could be 8, depending on how quickly depending on if I ramble or not. And then the training that actually moves the needle on these things. So no fluff, no like one crazy hack to fix your form. So
I think the cool thing about all of that is it applies to a variety of different disciplines within running. So 5K, road marathon, 50K, 100-miler. It's going to apply across the board, any surface, any distance kind of thing. Like it's really critical. It's an important thing to work on throughout the training year. And so, let's pick it up. Let's just pick it up right with what running economy actually is.
So think of your body as a car. I identify personally as a Kia Sorento.
That's it. I'm a Nissan Leaf.
Nice.
That's my car.
That actually feels really right
for me.
Yeah, that's dead on.
Nissan Leaf.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. VO2 max is the size of your engine. right? In your
Yes.
Nissan Leaf.
It's a very small engine in there.
So
it's mostly electric.
Mostly electric. How much fuel can you theoretically burn? Running economy is your miles per gallon, how much fuel you actually use to cover a given distance. So if you have a Honda Civic and a Ferrari and they pull up to a gas station with the same amount of gas, the Civic is going to go further because it has better economy. It may not have a sexier or more powerful engine, but it's still going to go further on the same amount of gas.
Right.
In running, economy is measured as the amount of oxygen that you need to run at a given pace. So, lower oxygen cost for the same pace equals better economy. You're getting more output for less input, which is important because you can only have so much input. You can't perpetually take in more oxygen, right? So,
Yeah.
for two runners with the same size engine, the one with the better economy will do better and typically do better in distances over like 3K. But again, it's not the only factor, particularly in longer races where fueling, like all these other variables, do come into play.
For sure. But, why this matters, especially as you go up in distance, is over a 5K, you're only out there about just over 3 miles. VO2 max matters a lot. Where your ceiling is matters a ton. But over the course of a marathon or an ultra, economy starts to dominate even more so. And it becomes even more important because you're nowhere near your VO2 max pace. You're not running anywhere close to your ceiling. Even elite marathoners, they're pushing the margin, but they're still running at an effort where they can clear lactate.
Yeah.
So they're not running at VO2 max. And so because of that specificity, we have to kind of look under the hood at the things that are actually going on that allow someone like Kipchoge, for example, who has a high VO2 max around 80, which is, amazing, but it's not probably like the highest of all elite marathoners.
Totally.
What we see is that his running economy is actually really exceptional compared to a lot of runners. So like the energy he puts out to go a given pace is much more economical. It's easier for him to go at like 4 something minute per mile pace for a marathon, which is insane.
Great news. And it's actually great news for people out there like me who unfortunately are not Eliud Kipchoge because VO2 max is heavily genetic. Obviously, there are things you can do to push it forward. See our numerous episodes about that, honestly. Running economy is way more trainable than VO2 max. So that's the really exciting news that we have today. So let's talk about what actually makes up running economy.
Tendon and muscle stiffness is the first place I like athletes to think about and to start at, specifically the Achilles. Every time your foot hits the ground, your Achilles tendon and the connective tissue around your calf and quad gets stretched and loaded.
Sure do.
So a stiffer, more elastic tendon is going to store that energy and return it in the push off. It's kind of like a pogo stick.
Yeah.
You hit the ground and you bounce back off. You hit the ground and you bounce back off. This is kind of one of the reasons too, as an aside, a lot of athletes think about when they're tapering, they want to really rest really, really hard.
Right.
And of course, we do want to rest a lot when we're tapering. But if we rest too much, we lose that
muscle
tension that allows us to store that energy and have a better return on race day.
Yes.
And so then we feel flat.
Yeah.
So this kind of shortening cycle is really, really key.
Yeah.
A well-trained runner gets a meaningful percentage of their forward propulsion essentially for free because of the elastic recoil of the Achilles tendon.
Yeah. So a floppy, undertrained tendon, for lack of a better way of saying it. If what you have is just a tuna steak floating around in there, that'll just absorb that energy and dissipate it as heat instead of returning it. So you're paying for every stride in metabolic cost. So that's one of the biggest reasons strength training improves running economy, even when you don't get measurably stronger in the way that I think a lot of people are trained to think about it. This is one of the most evidence-based reasons behind strength training is for building that, improving muscle tension, improving running economy.
motor unit recruitment and neuromuscular adaptations.
Yep.
The synchronicity between kind of your brain and your muscles is also vital to this process. So this is the number 2 thing I like athletes to think about. And when I talk to athletes a lot about, and we do phases of training where we work on building running economy, we talk a lot about the neuromuscular adaptations that are occurring in this kind of training. And so your muscles, they're made up of thousands of motor units, right? So basically, you have a nerve attached to a bundle of muscle fibers. And when you contract a muscle, your brain has to coordinate, which units fire and when.
So new or run undertrained, a lot of time, or if you're not doing sufficient strides, newer runners fire motor units a lot more chaotically, lots of them at once, including ones that just straight up don't need to be active for that particular task of running.
Yeah.
So that's wasted energy and competing force vectors. This is also why sometimes you can feel kind of clunky after a day off or after some time off, and it resolves really quickly with just a tiny bit of reinforcement. So when you train, a trained runner fires much more efficiently, more synchronously, more selectively. It's the same forward motion, but with dramatically less metabolic cost. So that's the neural adaptation that happens largely independent of fitness, which is why beginners often see economy improvements long before their VO2 max changes meaningfully, because the neuromuscular component is the quickest to lose, quickest to gain.
It's so important. Oh man, I was just thinking about this today for
Yeah.
me because I was out doing like I guess a workout that my coach considers like preparation
Yeah.
for like the bigger build that
Yeah.
is going to
Like
start next week.
a pre-workout.
Yeah,
workout.
a pre-workout workout to kind of get like the tissues and the nervous system and everything like ready to do like really hard work.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh my god, nothing's firing right."
Yeah, like
I feel so
like
bad.
when you run and you're like, I feel like I've never run before in my goddamn life.
Yeah. And like sometimes after you do an ultra, you're so used to just running really slow
Yeah.
that trying to like run fast, I was like astounded
I
at
always
that. Like,
feel like
oh, it's horrible.
the mental image I always get is like a spaceship trying to go through the atmosphere and shit just starts like flying off. Like there's springs and like O-rings going everywhere just because like, oh my God, I'm trying to make this giant piece of equipment go faster than it wants to.
And it didn't want to because there was, a lot of that connection, that neuromuscular component from not having done some fast running in, 3 or 4 weeks. Boy, like you need a couple sessions to
Yeah.
get it back.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about ways to do that a little bit later in the podcast, but I was really feeling that today. Okay. Number 3 here is mitochondrial density and quality. Tell us a little bit about
again, we
that.
talk about this on every episode. Angiogenesis, we all know
Drive the
drill.
point home though for the
But
people.
here's what is important when it comes to running economy. If your aerobic system can cover the demand, you don't have to dip into the anaerobic system, which is much less efficient and produces way more byproducts that your body has to clear. Looking at you, lactate. So the adaptation that all of that easy aerobic running drives primarily is that mitochondrial and angiogenesis, which is why also adding more miles sometimes does improve economy, even without other interventions. Like base training is a thing. You can improve running economy without. This is one way that it can improve without workouts. But again,
Spoiler.
since there's multiple components of economy, you're going to have to pull on multiple levers to meaningfully shift the whole measurement forward.
Right. It is a complicated and nuanced process.
It's not just one thing, right? Because it's how efficient do your muscles fire? How efficient do you burn fat? What's up with your cells? So there's a lot going on under the hood.
Yeah, and let's talk about substrate utilization now
Let's
too.
always talk about substrate utilization.
Substrate, it's such a fun word.
It feels so. I love saying substrate utilization because it's just like fat burnt. Like it's very science for a pretty easy concept.
Right. I think it's overly sciencey, but
Yes.
let's talk about basically what that means. It really means what kind of fuel you're burning.
Yeah.
So as we've talked about before, and I love to mention our previous podcasts on this. We just did a podcast where we covered a lot of fueling based topics. So check that out. But your body can burn fat or carbohydrate depending on your intensity level.
Yep.
So as you start to run faster and your intensity level begins to rise, there's a shift that takes place and you start to burn more carbs than fat.
And it's a spectrum, not a light switch.
That's right.
Right? Like even when you're going all out, you're still burning some fat. Even when you're running in zone 1, you're still burning some carbs.
So a more economical runner can hold a given pace while burning a higher percentage of fat compared to carbohydrates. And this is really, really critical in very long races. It's not as critical in a 5K, but it is quite critical in a marathon. And it's one of the advantages, honestly, that Kipchoge has.
Yes.
Just reading up about his physiology kind of in preparation for this podcast, because I just didn't want to talk only about ultra runners.
Yeah.
He tends to burn a lot more fat than carbohydrate at a higher intensity than similar marathoners, which gives him a big economical advantage. He's not dipping into those carbohydrate stores quite as quickly. And so he's able to maintain his output levels for longer. And since fat is essentially unlimited and carbs are not, this matters a ton and it prevents bonking, which is a real concern at longer races.
It's less about it's more sustainable energy. But again, the thing with intensity is like, if you're going to want to run it basically any intensity, you're going to be burning carbohydrate. So this is not like if you're reading between the lines this is carbohydrate avoidance. No,
that's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying. You want to be efficient at burning both. If you don't ever run fast enough that you're really reinforcing your body to burn those carbohydrates, you're not going to be very efficient at that. The best way to get efficient at that is to do it. The best way to get efficient at burning more fat is to run at the intensities that you burn more fat at, aka zone 1 and zone 2, especially zone 1. So again, and the training is what shifts that. So
absolutely,
the same pace that used to require 70% carbs might require only 50% after a more base building oriented block. You haven't necessarily gotten faster on paper, but you've gotten dramatically more economical, which again is why, when athletes are always looking for, I didn't run this route the fastest I've ever run it. I'm like, well, again, that's only like one way of seeing stress or of seeing improvement. Doesn't account for a lot of things outside of training. And unless you hook yourself up to a metabolic cart, substrate utilization, which is a really key metric here. Like, it's a thing that's really important that you also can't measure without scientific equipment. I actually did get to do this in a lab last year.
Yeah, it's really
cool. I did the really dumb thing of I ate a giant croissant right before my test, which is not good because if you introduce a lot of carbs, well, it's a lot of carbs. So if you introduce a giant carb bomb into your system right before you get hooked up to a metabolic cart, your body's going to be like, well, I have all these carbs. I'm going to burn. It shifts towards more carb burning because there's more carbs available than at baseline.
Mm-hmm.
But even after having a ton of carbs, and I'm a carb girl. We're a very pro carb household. Not a keto people here.
No.
Even with the croissant, I had really good, efficient fat metabolism, which made me feel so proud as an ultra runner.
Well, those are all those aerobic adaptations.
You can have your croissant and burn it too.
That's awesome. And still burn some fats.
Huge apology to my lab tech.
Okay, let's talk biomechanics for a second. Number 5 on this list. It's probably not necessarily what we might think, but it's really important. So let's talk about a few facets of this. One, ground contact time. Another important facet, vertical oscillation. We also have stride length and cadence. And so all of these matter. But the catch is trying to, consciously fix any of them usually makes things worse.
Yeah.
Often can lead to injury. So your body has to kind of self-organize around these particular facets of your biomechanical processes. And over time, you will kind of find your way into more efficient movement patterns that are unique to you. There are some little corrections, maybe like overstriding, that could be considered helpful, but a lot of things, like foot strike and stuff, and foot strike if you're on your forefoot or on your midfoot or whatever.
A lot of the stuff you see on TikTok and Instagram about fixing your form is ignorable. If you're getting repeatedly injured, biomechanics can be a place to look with the guidance of someone who specializes in that, like, ideally, like
Sure.
an informed PT, someone with an advanced degree in this
Mhm.
stuff, not just some jabroni from TikTok.
And I think the point here that I want to make is that these things do matter, but training will help you improve them over
Yes.
time and will cover this facet of running
Yeah.
economy naturally. So what does work? Getting stronger and more powerful. So
Mhm.
you could do strength work. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But also just running.
Mhm.
Just doing some running is going to help this um, a lot. And then
Yeah.
how you periodize your training and polarize it is going to make it even better.
Yeah. One of the pleasant and boring thing about this episode is a lot of the, like, how do you fix this? Run.
Yeah.
It's kind of it. Number 6 on this list is thermoregulation and cooling efficiency, which is quietly, I think, one of the really important factors here, especially for longer races and warm conditions, because a meaningful chunk of your energy expenditure goes to keeping your core temperature in a safe range. So heat acclimated runners run more economically in any condition, not just hot ones,
Yeah.
because they're better at dumping heat and they have higher plasma volume, which improves cardiovascular efficiency. So this is one of the reasons heat training has become trendy among elites. But I don't think that always chasing heat training specifically as a shortcut to these things is the way to go about it. Again, if you get fitter, it makes all of these things easier.
Totally. And I think this is an important contributing factor, but I don't think it's necessarily the number one the number
Well,
one
it is.
thing
It's
that
literally last on the list.
totally. But to be fair, it's last on this list, but it's first in the hearts and minds of a lot of
Sure
influencers out
is.
there.
Yeah.
We have seen, especially last summer in the lead up to Western states, a lot of hype around heat suits, out running long 20 milers in a heat suit or biking in a heat suit, and a lot of ridiculous things in a heat suit. And that is for a 1%, if that, gain
Yes.
at a race.
You have finite recovery resources, unless you're like, I mean, a pro that has a live-in chef and like no financial worries and like no kids,
Wow.
no job. All you have to do is train.
We're talking about running,
Us
right?
mere more right. Like, if you're one of the 2 people that makes money in this sport, congratulations. And why the fuck are you listening to our podcast?
You're not.
You're not. For everyone else, we have limited recovery resources. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like having a budget. How do you want to spend that recovery budget? For the vast, vast majority of us, that recovery budget is going to be better spent on getting fitter than on like sauna.
Absolutely. And you know what helps if you want to have better thermoregulation? Running. Just run outside when it's warm. You will build
What
plasma
I
volume.
just did.
Do what you did and then hydrate after.
Yes.
Good job.
Again,
Zoe.
that's not to say that heat protocols don't have a time and a place, particularly for event specific prep.
Again,
But
see
if you're
previous
trying
podcasts.
to like shortcut your way to running economy via like saunas or cold plunging or any of these like sort of hack things, forget about it.
Forget about it. All right. Part 3, what actually improves running economy?
Strength training.
Yes, let's talk about 5 interventions that actually work. Start us off with your favorite one. You are the biggest proponent of strength training in this household.
Which is weird because like I feel like people don't look at me and they're like, yeah, like that girl picks heavy stuff up and puts it back down. Like,
you're a great lifter.
I like lifting things. I got my strength training certification. I'm very into it.
I'm proud of myself. I got my 20-minute session in today, Zoe.
You did?
Yep.
Yay!
I've gotten
Look at us.
3 strength sessions
Hell
in,
yeah. Oh my
in
God.
the last 7 days.
All right, Joe Six-Pack. Here we go.
I'm trying to, not get hurt.
Yes,
Not
we
get
love
hurt
it.
this
And
year.
you want to have good
Maybe
running economy.
develop that economy a little bit.
We want you to be efficient. We want you to
Yes.
turn into a Honda Civic. Take this. No, I accept your Nissan Leaf. This is great.
Yeah.
So strength training is one of the strongest, like most consistent evidence, has the strongest, most consistent evidence base behind it. So there's lots of ways to go about it. There's a lot of good evidence behind heavy lifting. This is something I only recommend with a ton of caveats because it has to be done correctly and it has to be done with the correct amount of recovery resources, which really, frankly, a lot of amateur athletes don't have. This isn't something I recommend doing without supervision, without a plan created for you by an expert, and honestly, without you need perfect form. Like you can't have sloppy form and have this work. So heavy lifting works, but you have to do it right and you have to recover from it, which is actually so much harder than it sounds. So what I want is for not people to only get distracted by the heavy lifting, because if you can't do it right, don't fuck with it.
Yeah.
Other types of lifting are great as well. So because the primary mechanism here isn't hypertrophy, it's not that you need bigger muscles, it's that you want tendon stiffness. You want a better rate of force development. You want neuromuscular coordination that you can get through not lifting heavy and just doing some pretty simple like body weight or low weight, like single leg compound movements. You can improve running economy by 4 to 8% with like 90 minutes of strength work per week.
I
So
got work to do there.
great ROI. No sauna
It
required.
is good ROI.
I know you're like,
don't have to build a $10,000 sauna in your backyard.
Although if you want to build that for us in our yard, I would honestly love that. I would love a sauna.
It'd be nice.
Looking for a sauna sponsor now. So minimum effective dose principle, I think, is really key here for strength training. You don't need a bodybuilding program. You need to lift well, lift consistently, recover from it, eat in a way that supports it. If you can meet all of those things, great for your running economy.
Hugely important, and honestly underappreciated, I think, and talked about.
Because just lifting heavy indiscriminately and then not recovering from it is not going to work wonders for you. Plyometrics, also really good. Number 2 on this list. So things like box jumps, bounding hops, pogo hops, jump rope, anything that loads the stretch shortening cycle quickly. So that directly trains the elastic energy return component of running economy. It's also really time efficient, like 10 minutes or less of plyometrics, even just a couple rounds built into your normal strength training a couple of times a week will meaningfully shift running economy over 12 weeks. Again, a very strong evidence base here. The big caveat is start small, build slowly, especially if you're new to it, because the tissue can take time to adapt. And the soreness from underestimating plyos is its own very severe form of regret. So this is really one you want to build into. I recommend starting with pogo hops as a way of getting your body used to this. Also, really great for bone density for us gals out there, or folks who just want to have strong bones, which who doesn't?
I think it's, again, underappreciated and not talked about as much, but very, very helpful. We talk about that elasticity, especially of the Achilles, the ability to kind of move into like an eccentric position and be able to fire out of that position. That is very much running related, and training that is going to help you become faster and more efficient at that. Number 3 on this list are strides.
Love it.
Super, super, super popular out there on the internet.
We love strides.
But also very, very effective.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call these necessarily underrated, because a lot of people are very aware of them, but they are underrated if you are a recreational athlete who's not doing them regularly.
I think it's something that, like, I feel like anyone that has a coach is doing strides.
Yeah.
And it's something that I feel like a lot of people who are new to structured training or who are self-coaching oftentimes skip because it's so small.
Yeah. And because quite honestly, like, trying to figure out how to fit those into the middle of the run can be a little bit tough mentally for some folks. I've seen that in coaching.
It's easier to not do strides than to do them.
It's way easier just to skip it. But 20 seconds. So what are strides, first of all? These are 20-second bursts of speed at about 5K to mile effort. You take full recovery, typically 90 seconds to 2 minutes between each rep. And I recommend 4 to 6 reps. 6 or more, we're kind of trending into a strides workout. So there might be other underlying things that the coach is trying to get, other adaptations that we might be trying to work on with a session like that. But just doing 4 to 6 20-second strides with 2 minutes of easy running in between a couple times a week can really help you start to improve your running economy. So why is that?
So what they're training is neuromuscular coordination, which we touched on earlier. They work on fast twitch muscle fiber recruitment and running mechanics at higher velocities without creating the same metabolic fatigue that you get from workouts. So the way to think of strides is like you're microdosing the best possible form. You can't maintain that output for very long, right? Like it's maximum output. So it's sort of like you're practicing having your best possible form. And, none of us look and feel as sexy as we might want to when we're running in zone one, when we're just trotting along.
Yeah.
That's where you need to spend a lot of time because of the metabolic cost. But with strides, because you have to run more efficiently to run more fast, that's kind of what's going on under the hood. And there's really almost no other intervention. Like when you look at like the body of literature that has the same cost benefit profile of strides, there's close to a free lunch as you're going to get in running training.
Seriously.
They directly improve economy. They're relatively low risk when done correctly and at the right levels. Again, all the big caveats here of like interventions don't work if you do them wrong and also don't recover from them. But most recreational runners do completely skip them.
Yeah. Again, they're very easy to incorporate in a run. If you are an intermediate or advanced runner, you have 3, 4, 5 years or more of training under your belt. You can even do these on some of your recovery runs. I would stick to just 4.
Yeah.
But they're such a low cost because it's not a lot of time at intensity.
Yeah.
Also, if you're doing these and hoping for major fitness gains, that's not going to happen if
you're not running.
Yeah.
At enough time.
It's not enough time at intensity for big adaptations to the heart. We're not going to improve lactate shuttling with these kind of workouts. So if you're a beginner and you're just getting into running, these sessions are going to help those systems. It's only going to help for a very short window of time. And as you get better, these really become something that you have to do to maintain or improve your economy.
Yeah.
Especially as I would say your training periodization changes and you get into more of the nuances around structuring a year around building fitness. Insert the other part of this that we haven't talked about exclusively on this podcast, but mentioned at the beginning, which is fitness works right alongside running economy. So we have to structure our training properly.
Yeah. So another thing is hill repeats. I think both in terms of like structured hill repeats and running on varied terrain, because running on rolling terrain in general can improve running economy because you're constantly varying your force application, which helps train your neuromuscular system to adapt more efficiently than just running on the same flat surface for hours and hours.
What would be an example workout that you would give an athlete who wants to do some hills that would help to improve their economy?
I mean, I wouldn't give a specific workout on hills to improve economy. Like a lot of times, this is going to be downstream of workouts that target other things. But if you're doing 5 by 3 minutes at VO2 max, that's going to improve your VO2 max and your running economy.
Totally.
But I'm not prescribing it as like, this is a running economy workout. It does improve your running economy, but it's a VO2 max workout.
Yeah.
Because again, like running economy can become a catch-all for different metabolic and biomechanical processes that we lump in with fitness. So it's sort of like we have these really specific ideas like VO2 max and lactate threshold. And then we have these larger buckets of like running economy, which like being able to more effectively shuttle lactate makes you more efficient, but lactate and running economy are not the same thing. And then even less specific, you have fitness, which can mean all the things, right? Like everything from having an improved VO2 max to like good aerobic durability, which you're not going to get via a 5 by 3 minute hill workout.
Well, not necessarily.
Not like durability as a part of fitness in the way that like you need durability to run a 100 miler.
Right. I do think it's great to like give a couple samples though for athletes who are self-coaching, like 5 by 3. I would say that would be on the harder end.
Mm-hmm. What do you like for newer athletes?
I would go with something more like 1 minute hills.
I do love 1 minute hills. I mean, I hate them because they hurt like hell, but
1 minute hills, 90-second hills.
90 seconds hurt even more.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, it's not as bad as 2 minutes. This should be fine. And no, it's un-okay.
Yeah. 2 minutes are good. 3 minutes are good. I mean, I think the more you trend towards workouts with 2 or 3 or more minutes of time at intensity, the more we're going towards what you were talking about, where it's like, okay, now we're doing workouts that also have a purpose for more physiological adaptations rather than just neuromuscular adaptations, which is great to do both, but you do have to be at the level in which you can do both of those things.
Yeah.
If you're a beginner and you're, trying out some hills, you can also just start with hill strides. Like 6 by 30 seconds on a hill is really hard.
Yeah.
Just adding in that extra 10 seconds at 5K effort hurts. It's a good way to also start to, ease your way into those bigger workouts like 1 minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes or more.
One way to not improve your running economy is to do all of your runs on steep or technical terrain, because power hiking doesn't help your running economy, and sort of like having to dance through rocks and roots, not helpful for running economy. Again, this is why running economy is not the only predictor of ultra running success, right? Like, think of all the things we do in trail. And again, we do a lot more than trail and ultra at Microcosm. I'm just speaking from my world of interest and expertise of like trail shoes, not built to maximize economy, like treads, no. Packs, like the fact that you're carrying something on your back, the fact that you're wearing more than a sports bra and piece of like a loincloth, like those things are not maximized for running economy.
But the loincloth
there
definitely
are
is.
My Nike ACG breathable mesh loincloth coming for you, Nike. Like all of these things have trade-offs, right? So there are specific times in trail and ultra where we sacrifice running economy for gains in terms of better traction and footwear, carrying water and calories, like all of these things.
So we don't blow up
so you don't blow up. So like, again, it's not the be all end all. It's not the only thing, but it is a big thing. It's just so often in the world of media, you can't just be normal and have a podcast or an article that's like, here's one factor out of many that's important in nuanced ways. Here's 58 minutes of caveats. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, let's talk about the last big thing, the biggest thing, consistent aerobic volume over time. So this is the least sexy thing.
Very boring.
This is
I'm bored. I might leave.
I know. Everyone probably just stopped there listening to the podcast. Was like, yeah, fuck this. Wait, it's not sexy. I'm out.
Yeah.
But seriously, if you're here and you are still listening, embrace the non-sexy work, because that's the stuff that really works over time. If you consistently run at an easy effort for weeks and months and years on end, you will become more efficient.
Sure will.
You will get better at running. And so the list of positive impacts of doing aerobic volume is huge. Just look at our library of conversations here on every different system and facet of training that we've talked about. Running volume plays a role in every single one of those conversations. And that's the really cool thing about it. We don't have to do anything special. You just have to run.
Yeah. This is, I think, especially great news for our masters runners, because running economy will improve long after VO2 max has plateaued. So, like, this is one of the reasons where you may not be a spring chicken, but you'll see improved ultra performance, because, like, running economy is something we can absolutely continue to reinforce and improve into your 40s, 50s, and depending on your training background, beyond into your 60s and more, right? Like,
I do think the one trap here is that trying to add volume on top of inadequate recovery is likely going to create a situation in which you're going to get injured, or you're not going to actually see meaningful adaptations over time. So recovery. Can't overstate it.
Yeah.
If you want to train hard, you have to recover hard too.
You can only train as hard as you recover.
Let's talk about the myths before we close out the podcast.
Some myths. All right. Number one that I'm just ready to see this die is the idea that running a higher cadence will just fix your running economy, right? Like, this, you need to run 180 steps per minute is one of the most persistent and misunderstood pieces of running advice. So the origin, like patient zero for this, is Jack Daniels writing about, and he was not wrong. God bless, like, all hail Saint Jack. But he was talking about elite runners at races, and then this sort of got taken totally out of context and extrapolated to people with wildly different physiologies who are maybe not trying to run elite marathons. So like we said earlier, your optimal cadence depends on your height, leg length, pace, and half a dozen other things. So forcing a cadence change will actually make you less economical, not more. So the caveat here being if your cadence is really low, like if you're consistently running well under 160 at easy pace, could be worth examining, but often just forcing turnover is like not it. There's like underlying things of like,
I think the great example of this is you'll know who she is. Who is the ultra runner who, had the American like 124-hour record on the track and has a really crazy running form?
we're talking about Camille Herron.
I know there that's loaded, but it's a great example of individual biomechanics and not changing them, getting good with what you've got.
No comment.
Okay. All right. Number 2, midfoot striking, as I get a side eye from Zoe on that. Thank you. Midfoot striking is more economical than heel striking. So great myth to bust. The data on foot strike and economy is genuinely mixed.
Yep.
Many of the most
Forget Born to Run.
Seriously, many of the most economical elite runners are heel strikers. Many midfoot strikers have terrible economy.
This is what I think about every time I see Jim Walmsley run because his vertical oscillation is off the chain.
Yeah.
That man goes so up, but also goes so forward.
Yeah.
It defies logic.
Very individual to
He
Jim.
gets way up there and he's maximizing.
He's got a lot of elasticity.
He's a very elastic man. We love it. So, a lot of the times here, overstriding is the actual issue, regardless of what part of your foot touches first. So good things to think about are running with trying to land with your foot under your center of mass and let the rest sort it out. Think about having a nice forward lean, an active and engaged and strong core. Again, see strength training, strong glutes. Like you sort of need all the scaffolding to work in order for this to again, you can't just biohack your way into a better heel strike. It's well, you do need to get fitter and you do need to do the strength training to support all of this. Just trying to run more better is not really going to work here. So it's all complicated and you have to address it from multiple angles.
All right. Super shoes are cheating, not cheating.
So good. I love this because I think it is worth being honest about. Super shoes do measurably improve running economy. Easy. The science is there. Usually somewhere in the 2 to 4% on average, although it does vary wildly depending on the individual's biomechanics. Some people are super responders and the particular shoe. So that's not nothing, but it's also the difference between a good runner and a great runner. It can be, even for folks who are not elite or pro, the difference between a BQ and not a BQ. So
Sure.
The nuance here is that magnitude of benefit varies so much. So some runners can get upwards of 6% or more. Some get 1%. Some get nothing. Again, if you're running slower than a 9-minute mile, the amount of energy you're going to get out of a super shoe is going to be limited. So think about your particular biomechanics. Think about your particular use case, like how fast you're actually running. And if it's actually a fit for you. And it's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah. Lastly, form drills will fix your economy. I love this one.
I wish.
Because there is a good usage for some drills.
Yes.
Skips, high knees, butt kicks, etc. can be good in particular situations for athletes. They're great for warm up, for activation. They can help with your turnover and things like that. But there's no evidence that they meaningfully change your running mechanics or your actual running economy.
Yeah, so if your warm-up includes 48 minutes of a million different Frankensteins and grapevines and all the things we used to do in high school, karaoke steps.
I love that one.
I bet you did a ton of these in tennis. Yeah. I bet you love a drill. Ladder drills.
Ladders. We always started with dynamic warm-ups.
If you enjoy them, great, do them. But if they feel like a chore, you can skip them and evidence says you're not missing out on anything. Strength work, plyos, strides, all going to do a lot more.
Love it. So a couple practical takeaways. One, if you're a beginner, your single biggest economy lever is consistency over the next 12 to 24 months.
12 to 24 months. That's not 12 weeks.
No.
Got it.
Yes. We're talking years, Zoe.
Years.
We're
right.
talking years.
You can't turn a Ferrari into a Honda Civic. It's kind of funny to think about. I know you got that really nice car, but what if it was a shitty Civic?
That Nissan Leaf,
yeah.
that's years of design innovation.
This is intelligent design at its greatest. This is the pinnacle of performance.
Absolutely.
This is me eating a croissant and then rocking a treadmill test is the peak of human evolution.
It's because those adaptations take time.
Yes.
So, you know what? If you don't take the time to get them, you're not going to get them.
Yeah.
You have to just keep showing up and putting that work in. Point number 2 here, if you're an intermediate, you've probably been running plenty already. Add strength training in, add strides in. Those are 2 really, really important levers that can help you to start feeling more efficient.
If you're plateauing, again, like it's hard to say like your economy is or isn't getting better because a lot of those measurements do need to be done in a lab. Like Training Peaks does have a metric EF, efficiency over time, which is one way of looking at it, but you do need to have a really strong base of data and also ability to interpret it and like years of good heart rate data, years of good pace data. So there are ways to look at it, but it's imperfect without, again, being hooked up to a metabolic cart. But if you feel like you've stalled out, I think it's good that runners take a look at what they're doing because a lot of times it's strength, plyos, hills, or strides that they need to continue to integrate and not just continue to shoehorn more and more volume without strategy, without periodization, without polarization.
So a little reframe here for you guys before we close it out, but getting faster, it's not only about being fitter.
Correct.
Yes, fitness is very important. We will do many a podcast on how to get fitter.
Or just like faster, right? Like it's not just like improve VO2 max.
Right, totally. It's not necessarily a singular thing. But it is about doing well with what you have, making good use of the fitness you already have. And that's where running economy really comes in and can help kind of shift you and help you move forward in service of the goals that you want to accomplish.
Absolutely. Amazing.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. As always, hit us up. We love hearing from you.
We need hotter nuts.
Yes. And join the community. Microcosm-coaching.com and microcosmcoaching@gmail.com. We'll see you guys next week.